So I have a projector here that has black and white speckles from a failed DMD chip. This is a Optoma DLP projector, TW610 projector. Taking off the lamp cover, 2 screws on the lamp cover. I have these trays to kind of keep all those parts separated and organized. There's 2 more screws on the lamp. Those screws stay connected to the lamp, but you loosen them, and then there's a little handle. You just pull straight up, the lamp comes out. Put that to the side. On the bottom, the back, there's 2 screws holding the back panel in place. 2 more screws on the back panel that's holding the top in place. Those that have arrows, there's 5 of them. They're deep, so you need a longer, skinny screwdriver. Loosen all 5. Turn it over, the loose screws will all come out. Here I got 4 out of the 5 out, but there's a 5th one that needed to be a little bit more loosened. So I'll go back in, loosen that one, and then I'll turn it over again to get that last screw out. Five screws. The back panel takes a 5mm hex for the monitor components. There's 6 of them. So that's all the screws. So now it's to take it apart. I'm going to take the top panel off. So I flip it over. It's kind of tight. I found that actually if you squeeze in the sides, then the top comes off a little bit easier. I took off the front panel first. That just slides forward. And then the top panel, you just kind of keep working it, squeezing in, and then it eventually pops up. It's connected by a ribbon that connects the top control panel to the motherboard. You could take the back off, but I'm not taking the back off. This ribbon is connected. You have to detach it. There's a little gray clip. Slide the gray clip down, and then it'll loosen, and the ribbon just slides out. That little gray clip, it could push up to tighten and pull down to loosen it, and then the ribbon just slides out. So now there's tape holding everything down. So I just use regular tape, magic tape, to move those ribbons, move those wires, and tape them back out of the way so that I can work on getting the motherboard out. I'm going to take this metal plate off to expose the motherboard. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3 small screws. Using a screwdriver with a magnetic tip helps to not lose any little parts. So those screws are out. The top plate can come out. Slide it up and back, being careful of the ribbons and wires. Put it to the side. So now there's screws on the motherboard. Take those out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so all the screws are out. You have all these ribbons, so you have to detach all the ribbons and wires. They're colored red, green, blue. Helps you to put them back in. Use a little more tape to kind of tape them back out the way. This one has a ribbon, so you have to slide it down, and the ribbon slides out. I'm just going to tape this out the way, tape it back. The ribbon can stay. There's another blue one. Pull it straight out. Red, yellow, black. That's for the fan. Pull that straight out. These two came out of there. Turn it to the other side. There's 1, 2, 3. Take those out. That's for the speaker. It's a small little tab on here. You press and then pull out. Tape them out the way. You don't have to tape them away. I just tape them to get them out the way. This last one is kind of tucked in. It's kind of tight. It's hard to get your fingertips and grip in there. So it's a weird angle, so I use a little screwdriver just to pull it out. So now this little bracket, I'm just going to take those 2 small screws out. I could have bent it back, but might as well just take it out and get it out the way. This little metal bracket, take out those 2 screws, slides right out. Okay. So now I'm lifting the motherboard out. It's kind of pressed down and connected, so you have to pop it up on that side. Once it pops up there, it's pretty much loose. There's one more ribbon underneath. That one ribbon is holding it in place. So to get that out, raise it up just a little bit. Squeeze the 2 side tabs and then pull straight down. It's pretty tight. Squeeze and then pull down. So right there connects right there. So now we're going to move on to the base of the motherboard. It can come on out. It's connected, one more wire, one more connection. It's a quick disconnection. That's the speakers. The inside is all exposed. We're trying to get to the DMD chip, so we have to continue to remove things. Take the color wheel out. There's 2 screws on the color wheel and a third one that's a little bit deeper and longer, but that's a color wheel right there. This piece in the front requires a longer screwdriver. It's kind of deep. This is the color wheel. Put it to the side. So now we're going to take the lamp out. Well, not the lamp, the light. Or the whatever that is. Like 2 or 3, I think it's like 2 or 3 screws. Kind of done with that for now. Put it to the side. Now working on this part. There's little screws that stayed in. I want to get them out so I don't lose any pieces. So I end up just turning it upside down just to make sure they come out in my hand and I can store them. So we have to take this piece off. There's 2 spring-loaded screws. So as you loosen them, be careful that the springs don't cause them to kind of fly away from you and you lose the pieces. These are 2 spring-loaded screws. You want to make sure you don't lose the pieces as they spring off. Held together by a piece of tape underneath. There's a little rubber flap, and then that gray piece on top there is the DMD chip. Here's the chip. Just using something to prop it up a little bit. So that's a replacement chip. I got it on Amazon. It was $120. There's a small little screw that locks it in place, locks the chip down. Turn it, unlock it, and then the chip lifts right off. The thermal pad is stuck onto the chip, the old chip. So now we're going to prepare the new chip. The old chip, it's kind of hard to see. The old chip had some, that's what caused the speckles. The chip was failing, and so it was projecting onto the screen. So here's all the parts organized: the lamp cover, lamp screws, back panel screws, bottom screws, component screws, the front cover, top cover, motherboard, base, color wheel, little bracket, light screws, spring screws for the back, and the failed DMD chip. And then here's the lamp. The body's pretty much empty, and now we need to wait on the thermal pad. Thermal pad, 1 millimeter thickness. Probably could have done half a millimeter thickness. Cut it down to size. I put it right on the chip, or probably should have put it right on the metal piece of where the chip holder is. Just make sure you trim it down so that it doesn't interfere with any of the little gold pins. It's protected on both sides. Thermal pad is in place. Place it down. When you lock it in place, it should be nice and flush. Just use a little microfiber cloth to make sure it was nice and clean. And now I'm just starting the process of putting everything back together. Carefully realign everything here. Make sure the little rubber pad is in position. And then I'm putting back in the spring-loaded screws. That's the first one in. I didn't tighten it all the way down, but just enough to hold it in place. The second screw's going in. And then continue to tighten it. All right, the chip is back in place. Let's put the old chip up. Now I'm going to start to put this thing back together. Put the light back in. Put the screws back in. This one on the left is kind of in a small cavity, so it's hard to get it all the way in place. All right, all 5 screws, the lamp light section is back in. And this little bracket, 2 screws, we'll do that after the color wheel. Color wheel, let's put it back in. There's 3 screws to put the color wheel back in. 1 on that very front piece, it's a deep screw, and then 2 that connects the color wheel back to the lamp body, the light body. 2 screws left right there. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to start putting the motherboard back in. Put this small bracket back in place with 2 screws. Motherboard base plate. Slide that back in place. Be careful of all the wires and ribbons. Line up the holes in the back. And then don't forget to reconnect the speaker cables. Just slides right back in. Sliding it back in place, lining up the back holes. All right, we'll start putting the screws in. this screw right here. Don't forget to put it in between that little cable. Putting the motherboard back in. You have to line up the back components. Reattach this wide ribbon here. Since you pull straight down to take it out, you have to pull straight up to put it back in. Now that that ribbon is back in, the section where the DMD chip is, there's a area that needs to be correctly aligned, and then you push straight down. Once that's aligned, move all the extra little ribbons and wires out of the way, and then once that's correctly in position, it will seat right where it needs to be. There's also some small little metal pins that help the motherboard correctly position. It takes a little bit of wiggling around to kind of get it just right, but once it's right, you'll know it'll snap in and it'll be secure. So now once the back section is aligned, it pushes straight down, it's secure. The little metal pins let you know it lines up. The back is nice and flush, and now we're going to reconnect all the little cables. Take away all the tape that was holding it out the way. Most of the cables just push right back in with a little bit of force. Those three are repositioned. We're going to connect these two, the yellow, red, black cable, and then the blue cable. And then we have these three, 1, 2, 3, the white, red, and green. The white is a ribbon, so we'll start with the red and green. Slides right back in, a little bit of force, it'll kind of click back into place. The ribbon is loose, make sure the tab is loose, slide it underneath. Once it's in position, then you tighten that little tab right over it and it holds the ribbon in place. This cable here that's loose, that will be attached once we put the motherboard plate, top plate. So we're screwing the motherboard in place, screws all around. So just checking the 9 screws on the top plates and making sure all the ones that need to go on the motherboard are in. So that's the remaining 9. Plus the 3 small ones. So the cover can go back in the right place. Once the cover is positioned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the 3 small ones, 1, 2, 3. So I'll start with the 3 small ones. Putting in the 9 screws around the motherboard plate, top plate. Everything's back in place. Front panel can go back on and get ready to put the top panel back on. But some of these ribbons and wires still need to be retaped back into the position that it was in. Everything's back in, retaped. And now for the top panel, you want to make sure you line up the zoom and put the ribbon back in. So there's a little clip where the ribbon has to go back in. Make sure the clip is slide down, the ribbon goes into place, and then you slide it up to lock the ribbon in position. So now the top can snap back into place. Just press with a little bit of force. And now we just have a few more screws to secure everything back together. These 6 on the back with the 5mm hex. And then the 2 black screws on the back panel that holds the lid to the back panel. Flip it over. You have 2 in the back bottom that holds the back panel to the bottom. And then we have those 5 deep screws that holds the bottom to the top. Here's the last screw going in. Last screw. And now to put the lamp in. the lamp slides straight back down. Use the little handle, helps position it. And then the 2 screws, tighten those back down. Two screws for the back panel lamp cover. And that's pretty much it. So you want to make sure you connect the zoom. And now we're powering it on. And we're going to check to see if the new chip worked. And there we have it. Looks good.